What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Sebastian of the Almighty Scream Maker. It is great to be able to have you here. Thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Hello, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here with the new album Land of Fire being absolutely kick ass. Was there sort of like a vision that you had going into the making of this album, or was this like a very improvisational songwriting process and very experimental?
First of all, it was a very short process. Like for the first time in the history of our band, we were, I can say, in a way, forced to compose and record an album within half a year. Because during the last year, we got signed to Frontiers. So it is a very first big label that we are signed to. We have some deadlines in the contract. So it's like for the first time, we are not, how to say, to make it sound diplomatic, for the first time in our career, we are not the sole masters of our own activities. So we have to fit in the schedule. So probably you can guess that when you are doing something fast, there's not a lot of space for improvising. You have to rather adhere to some old but well-working methods that you already had tested back in the past. So, as every album, this album was composed mainly by me. I took care of the melodies and of the lyrics, and by our guitarist Michael Vrona. So he is the composer of the riffs. Actually, he puts together all the songs, and it worked pretty well. We composed. We found in ourselves a lot of creative potential, so we were able to compose over 20 songs in this first phase, from which we chose the 11th one that you have on the album. So no place for improvising. It was rather all methods.
Well, I was wondering too. You mentioned you worked on it for a fast time. Was part of that also because the last album, at least the last album that I'm aware of, Back Against the World, came out in 2016. So, like, was it just kind of like we got a lot to catch up on?
No. The last album that we released was Blocking,
Oh,
and the
okay,
Blocking we released it 2 years ago, the beginning of 2022.
okay.
We It was a self-release, but this self-release was picked up by Frontiers, and they asked us to re-release the album worldwide, and then they signed with us for another album.
Hmm.
So yeah, Back Against the World, it is distant past. It's 7 years ago. Then a big period with no album, then Blocking, and then a year after Blocking, we started composing Land of Fire. So this is how it looked.
It was this intended to be just a direct continuation of Blood King in a way, or was this meant to be like a new beginning for Scream Maker?
So Blacking was very specific for us because it is still the heaviest album that we ever recorded. So at least 4 or 5 tracks at some point are even a bit trash metal in some of the riffs. And in the way I sing some songs, there's also a bit of screamo, which I never do normally. So it's like much more varied, much more versatile album in terms of the composition. With Land of Fire, we thought, okay, the experimenting phase. It was nice to do some experiments, but maybe let's stick to what we do best. And what we do best is traditional, old school heavy metal with a bit of power metal too. That this was the fundamental assumption in the creative process leading to Land of Fire. So we did not want to discover new areas of music. There are much more talented musicians out there, much more creative than us. But we are good at preparing this old recipe that we find very still after so many years very charming, which is heavy metal.
Well, being that because with the whole like traditional heavy metal and power metal style, I mean, there's always a variety of different lyrics that are incorporated on here. And when you look at a track like Zombies versus A Nail in the Head versus Dark Side of Mine versus Below, like it feels like every song lyrically has its own meaning behind it. Is it fair to say you took your lyrical inspiration from many different sources?
Yeah, yes, that's fair to say, and you're right that every song is about a different topic. But I'd say that there's some one thing in common to each of the compositions, to each of the lyrics. So the title track and the title of the whole album is "Land of Fire." And there's a nice story related to Land of Fire and the very origins of this title. I was visiting Azerbaijan last year, and we were at the stage of searching for a nice title for a heavy metal album. And I was having this long walk in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, with a very nice Azerbaijani friend of mine. And she said, you know what? Our country is traditionally called Land of Fire. So it immediately struck me as a perfect title for heavy metal album. What is more metal than the Land of Fire? But okay, so then I started, and there were no lyrics at that point. So now then I started to write lyrics, and I was thinking like, what should I write to make it like meaningful for the whole album? What kind of lyrics should I put out? So you can maybe try write something about post-apocalyptic world, but it's too obvious. Everybody does it. So I thought maybe this would make a nice metaphor. This title, "Land of Fire," it would make a nice metaphor of our internal life, what we all have in our little heads. It sometimes resembles a land which is on fire. We have so many different conflicting thoughts, desires, we need to struggle internally to make sense of it all and prevent it from burning down everything in our soul. So, in a way, every song is about different aspects of our internal struggle, I say.
Did that help determine the music itself as well, or was it just mainly a lyrical focus that this concept was guided in? Like, if we were to listen to an instrumental version of this album, could that concept also be told through the guitar riffs and the drum patterns and all that?
Well, we have this modus operandi. And first, we do the composition from the musical standpoint. So we compose the riffs, we put them in an order, we compose melodies, and then I write the lyrics. So of course, when I improvise melodies, I improvise them with some kind of lyrics, but they do not make much sense. So to put it shortly, I had to fit into the already existing composition with the right lyrical topic and approach. So the lyric was not impacting the way the songs are composed.
Depending on what the lyrics are about, or depending on what the song is, the song's meaning, does it feel like you channel a different energy into it, or that maybe if you're singing about something different, it feels like it resonates with you in a different way?
Yeah, So I think that's quite an obvious answer then. Each lyrics conveys a bit different message, and and the dynamic of the relation between you and the lyrics is different. So yeah, I mean, when you sing Zombies, you get much different vibe than when you sing See the Light, for example. When you sing Zombies, you'd like to maybe calm down while you perform it on stage, stand tall, tight in one place. When you sing See the Light, it gives you the vibe that you'd like to run all over the place, all over the stage. So yeah, so different dynamics, different emotions are evoked by those lyrics. I think that is the case with every artist, I say.
It sounded like too that like was there almost kind of like a lot of research going into the making of this album? Were you almost looking at different, because with all these historical references in there, was there like a lot of looking at literature or film or visual art as a means of like artistic research?
Actually, I read a lot by profession because though we have a professional band, it's heavy metal. It's very hard to make a living nowadays. Heavy metal. So now, for example, I'm at the office, and even here I have books. This is about legal stuff. This is about history. I don't know why it is not showing the
Yeah.
title. So I have some books which are very right on the right side of mine that are like from different areas, from different topics. So I do read a lot. So it comes naturally for me to maybe do some references, make some references in the songs. But I do not intentionally take books in order to write the lyrics.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm searching for this book will be good or to write a really lyrics about. It's not like that. I mean, you just have to have it in you already,
I've
and
always
then it spontaneously comes out.
There should be a band where like when they go on stage, it's almost like a professor coming into a university. They just read the lyrics as the band is jamming. They just read the lyrics like a book or something like that.
Yeah, well, there are some like bands that use a lot of those like intellectual references, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yes. A lot of concept albums are based on some concrete stories. Yeah, that would be a nice
Yeah.
idea.
There's been a lot of great concept. I'm a concept album junkie, so like every time a band like if you watch some other interviews, there could be a time where like I'm interviewing a band and I didn't get to read about them as much in advance, so like they mention, oh yeah, this was a concept album. I'm like, tell me more. I need to know what the concept is. So
Yeah, the idea of concept album is very interesting, and I think that it also can be very much more challenging this in our era to write a concept album, to compose it, and to sell it, because the very notion of album is kind of vanishing from the minds of people. So when people listen to music these days, they listen to Spotify or iTunes. They listen to first three tracks. They switch to the other album. Back in the day, you have to buy the CD or whatever, a cassette, and you already had the entirety of the album. So you were tempted to listen to it all. And it was even a part of creative process for the artist to decide which songs to put on A side, which songs to put on B side, because that would impact the way the album is received by the listeners. These days, times changed. So maybe albums like Operation Mindcrime would not ever have been composed if the Spotify was the reality 30, 40 years ago.
oh, absolutely. And bands, especially a lot of progressive bands, still put it out, and I give them credit for doing it because I feel like metalheads really are, and everybody's different, obviously, but like metalheads are very interested in the what behind the why and the why behind the how and the like. Metalheads really like doing the deep dive stuff, but I do agree, like an album like Operation Mindcrime would be very difficult to release today with the attention spans some people have.
Yeah, you have to focus for 70 minutes in order to fully grasp the album. You cannot really listen to the concept album like half today and half tomorrow because you just lose something
It's like putting a
by
book.
doing that. So,
It's like putting a bookmark in the middle of a chapter.
yeah, that's right. So,
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, an 80-minute record, Operation Mindcrime, I mean, we can handle that. An 80-minute record like Saint Anger in today's day and age might be a little more difficult, but, to pick your poison.
Yeah, maybe it would be good if Seidinger would be a bit shorter than
Yeah.
this.
What I love about, I've interviewed bands from all over the world now at this point, and sometimes they have different scenes, they have different upbringings in metal and all that, but oh my God, everybody has a joke about Saint Anger. If I'm interviewing a band in Japan, Australia, Poland.
I was waiting for this album so impatiently. I remember I was in high school back then, and Metallica has recorded the new album. When would it be out? Come on! I was running towards the music store buying the cassette because I had it on a cassette. Like, oh, okay, all right. Let me just digest this when I listened to the album. Well, I still think that there are like a few nice songs on the album. Like what was the title of this? This
Invisible
uh,
Kid.
uh, 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 Invisible Kid is a nice one, but there's a clip, a video. One of the songs with a girl on the bed, she's struggling, and
Oh.
the walls are closing in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what song, and the fact and I know as soon as I hang up on the Zoom call, I'm gonna remember the song. But
I'm gonna do a quick research on that.
yeah, but hey, the music videos
Uh,
for that album was pretty cool. I mean, Saint Anger filmed in San Quentin prison. I mean,
the unnamed feeling. This is
okay,
the title
okay,
of
yeah,
the song. Really like this
yeah,
video.
yeah. But
So
I was only a little boy. I was 9 years old when that album came out. So like, I'm very thankful that I kind of wasn't a full metalhead yet, so I didn't have to endure that disappointment like you did.
just yeah.
Yep. Uh, um, when it comes to the overall, have you ever? But could Scream Maker ever approach a concept album? Because I mean, from the books that you showed me and your lyrical process, think you could really hit the nail on the head with writing a full concept album.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea, and I think that we can try that. We can try that out. I don't know whether it will be the next one, because to be honest, right now we already recorded five albums, or four, depends how we count it. So, and on each of them, it was more or less like traditional heavy metal in each of them, a bit of hard rock too on the first two records. And then now we have like a young blood in the band. We have a new guitarist, Bartek Żukowski, and he is a fan of like this modern kind of metal, right? And we are tempted to incorporate a bit of this modern approach to the heavy metal old school approach. It's not to say we're gonna abandon heavy metal for playing metalcore. It's not to say because I'm not able to sing the metalcore songs, but to scream so much. But yeah, we like to experiment with them. So this is a thought that is kind of in our minds at the moment. We didn't think of a concept album for the next release, but maybe we can. Who knows? I'm gonna talk with the guys, and I'm gonna say that you suggested that.
Yeah,
So
please
let's
do.
see.
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, I'm obsessed with that. Whether it be Nevermore or Fear Factory or Mastodon, Porcupine Tree, even My Chemical Romance,
Yeah,
they all are great at concept records. So,
yeah, sure.
um, and the final question I wanted to ask you being a band from Poland. Actually, my ancestry goes back to Częstochowa. So,
Oh, whoa,
yeah,
really?
yep. So, and with a great history of bands out there, I mean, with Behemoth and Decapitated, but like with a lot of traditional heavy metal bands like yourself, because you guys do have a very classical sound to it. Like I really, on a technical level, with the instrumentation and the songwriting, I put you up there with maybe like an old school Queensryche or even like a Judas Priest or something like that.
That's
But
a compliment, that's for sure.
but
Thank you.
how is the current scene in Poland? Are you guys in Warsaw or where are you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're based in Warsaw, and this heavy metal scene, like traditional heavy metal scene, is not so strong as extreme metal scene. So you know Polish metal from bands like Vader, Behemoth, Decapitated. You already mentioned that. Maybe a bit of prog metal or prog rock too, like Riverside.
Yep.
So they are like internationally recognized brands in the music. When it comes to traditional heavy metal, we were never able to produce a band that would make it abroad. But, we have some very nice heavy metal, traditional heavy metal bands, all the ones like Turbo, for example. You check them out. Perfect. You know, we know the guys love it, so it's really it will be really interesting for you to listen to the music. Very also different. Each album is different that they put out. So really, you have to check it out. But I have to admit that there's nothing special going on in Polish scene in terms of heavy metal. There are a few bands, young bands, very ambitious. They're playing good music, but nobody is making it big. No other new bands are making it big, with one exception. So friends of ours, the band was called Night Mistress, and they played a bit like us. So also heavy power metal, English lyrics, serious lyrics, good performances. That they were playing like for 10 years, and still the same 50 people in the audience.
That sucks.
They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's so what to do now? What to do now? So to make this long story short, they decided to first keep the genre, but uh, change lyrics to Polish. And not only that, also start singing about partying, having fun, like Steel Panther. So they're basically a Polish version of Steel Panther. But in Poland, they're much more popular than Steel Panther is popular in Poland.
Yeah,
Much more. So they are able to like fill up a big 2,000 seats club 2 days in a row in Warsaw. They sold out almost every show that they performing around the country.
wow.
So yeah, this is the only success story in heavy metal, and I really am happy that at least one, one band made it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not that's a very common story. Like I was in Sweden last year, and I saw a bunch of bands that I'll just say this: they sounded like what I call frontiers bands. They sounded like old school classical heavy metal, and they were playing to maybe there had to have been 10, 15,000 people at that festival. It was like a small festival outside my hotel in Stockholm, and they freaking killed it. But if they came here to America, I don't know if like they might be able to play like, you know, a dive bar or something like that. But like, so it really depends on the region. And also another good example, a band that I believe they're on Frontiers, but don't quote me on that. But they're from Czech Republic, Eclipse, they're called. And
No, they're from Sweden.
Sweden? Really? I could have. You know what? I think they played a show in Czech Republic, and I saw that. But either way, like they have that classical sound to it. Nestor has a great sort of classical.
They're quite big,
Yeah, Nestor.
at least in Europe.
Yeah, yeah. In Europe,
No. The Eclipse, they're quite big.
okay. In Europe, they are, but you know, and here in America, it's different. Like I'll never forget the band Saxon. They played in New York City maybe like 10, 15 years ago to a club that maybe can hold like 200 people tops, and it didn't even sell out. But they're playing festivals in Sweden to 30,000 people. So,
Yeah, sure.
so
So I mean, but it was always like that.
yeah.
If it was always like if you were famous in the US and you weren't famous in on the continent in Europe, you had a problem. And there's a lot of stories about this. Like for example, Alice Cooper, uh, back in '70s when he was already famous in the US, he was nobody in Britain. So he wanted to be somebody in Britain. So they booked a show for him in the arena for 10,000 seats in London. And 2 days before the show, 300 tickets were sold only. So yeah, finally they managed to fill it up, but still they had a big problem with this. So, or Iron Maiden that was already famous in Europe, and then they wanted to be famous in the US. If not for the very active managers, they would not make it. But the managers, they were crazy. They were touring radio stations in the US one by one, each state, meeting with the journalists, with DJs, giving them CDs, making Iron Maiden a good background for the future tour. So this is a problem that was always there. It's not a new thing.
Yeah. Well, I hope with my journalism career I could help bring more European bands here and help them get out. Maybe.
Yeah, we would love to. We would love to tour in the US, but we understand it's pretty hard for various reasons. Not only because you have to have some kind of a booking agent there. I'm not saying about recognition because it's very hard, but just the booking agents could book few shows in a row. But there is also bureaucracy, red tape, and there is a lot of cases when the musicians were simply denied entrance to the US even though they had visas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It sucks. I hope to make maybe Scream Maker could be my Iron Maiden.
we are in for cooperation.
Sounds good. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for this awesome album. Just with the release of Land of Fire out now, is there just anything else with Scream Maker you would like to promote in terms of shows going on in Europe, or what else we could be expecting from Scream Maker in the future?
If anybody of you is visiting Poland this fall, there are a few shows we're playing. Just follow us on Facebook or whatever social media or platform you have. We are there. We're gonna update you. You're invited. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm just terrific. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Scream Maker Land of Fire. It is out now via Frontiers. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.